What's poppin' YouTube, and welcome back to part 3 of What If Eren Yeager Was in My Hero Academia. This is actually part 2 of the UA Sports Festival, and in part 1 we talked about the race and the cavalry battle that went on. So before I get into this video, I have a few things that I must say for this series. So firstly, I want to give big shout outs to user, I have to read this, Nico Music, I believe it is how it's pronounced. I'll put it up on the screen just in case I pronounced it wrong, but he left a really great comment in the last video talking about some things that he saw in the video that he liked and some things he thought he'd fix. And so I was just thinking that if a lot of other people did this well, it really helped this series a lot. So if you want to see something in the future, then you can just tell me and I'll consider putting it in if it doesn't affect the story too much. Also, a really great point that they brought up was that I made mistakes in the prior video. I accidentally added in 3D maneuver gear. It wasn't in my intentions though, it's just the picture I used of Eren had the gear. But in fact, Eren does not have 3D maneuver gear, but I'm not saying it's not coming in series, he just does not have it right now. And like I previously said, this is part 3 of the series, so to understand what's going on in this video, you have to go watch part 1 and part 2, then come back to understand what the story is at this point. And let's get right into it. Oh yeah, side note, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like, a comment on some things you'd like to see or something you have to say, and subscribe. And I'm really proud of the growth this channel is taking so far. So if you're enjoying the videos, make sure you help support me so I can keep putting out good content. The top 4 teams in the prior battle are now going head to head in one-on-one battles. Before the battles began, 2 members of the finals decided not to participate, leaving only 13 fighters. Midnight allows this, and instead lets 3 members from the team in 5th place, Tokiyami, Mineta, and Kota, 3 students in Class 1A, into the battles. After all of this is settled, the 16 competitors are drawn from a lot to see who their opponent will be. After just using his quirk for a long duration in the cavalry battle, Eren hopes his first opponent is not someone as skilled as Bakugo, Kirishimia, Uraraka, or Todoroki. He looks as the list is projected, and his first matchup is against a student named Shinso, who is in Class 1C. This battle is also the first matchup of the first round. Before that though, the students are allowed a few minutes of recreational time. Eren walks back into the locker room to sit and think about his next battle. He knows nothing about Shinso's quirk, but apparently he was the reason many of the students left during the exam. Unexpectedly, a voice comes from the chair next to Eren's, which catches him by surprise. He looks up and sees Kirishimia, who he has rarely seen throughout this tournament. Kirishimia laughs and asks why Eren is always so deep in thought, and Eren replies saying he was just thinking about his battle against Shinso. Kirishimia informs him that he knows that his quirk has something to do with his voice, but he is not entirely sure. Eren thanks Kirishimia, but tells him that he would rather not know anything about his opponent before a match, as that is how it is in a real battle. This comment reminds Kirishimia about Eren's past and how his parents were killed in a villain invasion that he heard of as a kid. That disaster was broadcasted all over the world, but only a few people knew Eren was one of the survivors. Kirishimia heard it from Aizawa, as he was curious why Eren never spoke about his family. He begins telling Eren about his childhood, starting from the story about his first encounter with a villain. An incident took place where he met face to face with a large threat that scared many of his classmates, but was too scared to do anything. The students were saved by Mina, who is also a student in Class 1A, and the fact that she was able to do something while he was not left him feeling incapable. Kirishimia tells Eren that he understands exactly how Eren feels after the invasion, but he should not let it get to him. This was just the advice Eren needed to get back on his feet and gain his confidence, as his struggles only added to the fuel of his feeling of uselessness. They both stand up and shake each other's hands to wish each other luck for their battles. Eren reminds Kirishimia that if they both win their fights, they are set to face each other in the second round. With this, Eren takes off and steps on the stage for his first battle. He steps out from the tunnel and steps into the bright stadium. Across from him is his opponent, Shinso. The rules are simple. The competitor is out if they exit the stage or are unable to fight. They also cannot attempt to kill someone, as this conflicts with the ideal of a true hero. After introducing the 2 fighters, the battle begins. Everyone expects Eren to activate his quirk at the beginning of the battle to gain the advantage, but they are surprised when he does not. His reasoning for this is that he is unsure of Shinso's quirk, so he does not want to take chances. Instead, he chooses to rush Shinso and attempt to take him out using hand-to-hand combat, but he stops in his tracks after Shinso begins talking. He tells Eren that he expected this approach from a hot-headed individual like Eren, so this battle will be over in a second. Eren tells him to stop being so sure of his victory, as he has 3 people he has to fight later on in the tournament, so he can't lose. He steps to swing at him, but his body suddenly stops moving. What occurred with Shinso's brainwash quirk, which allows for him to take control of anyone who answers him. Eren is beginning to lose consciousness and can only hear the sound of Shinso's voice. He utters the words, "I order you to walk out of bounds," which Eren has no other choice but to do. Eren begins walking towards the outside of the ring, and the audience is shocked by how fast his battle ended. Kirishimia grits his teeth as he knew Eren would hate to lose like this, and Bakugo scolds Eren for falling for a trick that simple. As his feet are centimeters away from stepping out of bounds, he suddenly stops. Shinso is confused and tells Eren to continue walking, but his body does not respond. They believe that Eren gained control over his body, but this isn't the case. He is still under Shinso's command, but his body won't respond to anything, not even brainwashing. Suddenly, steam starts to erupt from Eren's body, and the light storms the battlefield. Once the stage is visible again, a large giant figure emerges from the smoke. Everyone is stunned, as it seemed that Eren's loss was inevitable. So how did he transform? At first, Eren just stands in one spot on the stage, twirling his hair from side to side as if searching for something. Once he turns around, he locks his eyes onto Shinso, which startles him. Nobody in the stands nor Shinso himself could tell, but the students of class when they noticed that Eren seemed off. Usually, he has more control when using his quirk, but he appears to be in a similar state as when he went berserk during the entrance exam. He lets out a ferocious roar and dashes towards Shinso. He begins screaming threats and words to Eren, but he can't respond to any of them. He clutches Shinso in one hand and raises him into the air close to his face. Wiggling and shaking did not loosen the grip at all, and Shinso couldn't think of anything else he could do. Eren begins tightening the grip even more, to the point where blood spits out of Shinso's mouth. The heroes have no choice but to stop the match, but even after their calls, Eren does not release Shinso. He begins winding his hand backwards in a throwing position, which causes the fans to hold their breath. The heroes rush towards the stage, but his arms begins to push forward as if he's resisting himself. After time passes, Eren regains his consciousness and drops Shinso and deactivates his quirk. The medics quickly rush over to Shinso's side, and the crowd remains silent in shock. Eren could feel the anger of the crowd, even hearing many parents calling him a monster. He returns back into the locker room and locks himself in to get some time to think. Eren has seen villains as monsters his entire life after the invasion, so being referred to one angered him. He was always waiting to obtain the quirk his entire life, just for it to result in him being outcasted by the public. But it wasn't his decision. He heard a voice when he was brainwashed. He wasn't sure what it was saying or who it was, but he knew what he heard. Eren returns to the crowd to sit along to watch the rest of the first round. Kirishima and Todoroki both win their respective matches, and finally it was Bakugo's turn. Eren wants to face off against Bakugo in this tournament, however his opponent is Eren's friend Uraraka, so he's unsure who he wants to win. The beginning of the battle is heavily favored towards Bakugo, however she tries her best to use tactics to win the battle. But her efforts are futile, and Bakugo is able to win this battle. The second round begins, and Eren faces up against Kirishima in the first battle. As he took the stage, he could still feel the stirs of the crowd after what occurred in the last bout. Kirishima looks worried about Eren, but as this is a battle, he doesn't have time to talk. The battle begins and they both dash toward the middle of the ring to clash. Eren tries throwing punches and kicks toward Bakugo, but his hardening quirk bruises his hand and feet upon contact. He tries to dash back to gain distance, but Kirishima does not let up. Eren gets knocked down for the first time in the battle, and it looks like he's at a great disadvantage. He makes the realization that he won't win this battle without his quirk, so he jumps back and bites into his hand. There's a long pause, and yet nothing happens. He tries to activate his quirk again, but the result is the same. This leaves him puzzled, as this has not happened to him before. Is there a limit to the amount of times he can use his quirk? But he was sure he has used it more than he has used it today. However, he was still able to activate it. During this time of struggle, Kirishima took the opportunity to knock Eren onto the ground, near the edge of the stage. Eren gets up and quickly gets out of the way of the next attack, which could have knocked him out of the ring. While he dodges attacks, he questions to himself why his quirk isn't activated at a time like this when he really needs it. He tries biting into his hand again, but like last time, there was no result. Kirishima gets another good hit on Eren, who is now struggling to get up. The audience watches that Eren is at a big disadvantage, and it seems Kirishima is about to go to the next round easily. But In the Ring tells a different story. Eren is hanging on with every ounce of strength he has, but it is not enough. Kirishima has crushed his opponent in the ring, but there is a pained expression on his face as he knows what Eren has gone through. He dashes toward Eren for one more final blow that will end the match. As he gets closer and closer, he notices that Eren is beginning to stand up after all the blows that he has suffered thus far. The reason Eren is able to stand up now is because he made a realization. He figured out what was stopping his quirk from activating. At the beginning of this match until now, there was something that haunted him. He feared turning into a Titan again and hurting one of his classmates. He feared the crowd seeing him as a monster summoned to the villains he hated, but he realized that there was nothing that he feared more than failing his mission of defeating all the villains. He got up on his feet and was determined to finish the match off, even if he couldn't transform. They both stand at opposite sides of the rings, ready for one final clash, as Eren's body can't take another blow and Kirishima can't hold his quirk for too long. They both dash to the middle of the ring and raise their fists for a blow. Eren lets out everything he has left to desperately win this match. However, it is Kirishima's fist that strikes Eren's face first, breaking his jaw on impact. But suddenly, a dash of lightning strikes across the arena and a loud crash erupts. As the smoke and debris settle, the crowd can see an unconscious Eren laying in the middle of the ring, believing that he lost his fight. However, someone shouts and points out that Kirishima was nowhere to be found. As they look around for him, Midnight picks up the microphone and picks out where Kirishima is. He lays unconscious in the outside of the ring, crashing through the wall of the stadium. As Eren was knocked out in the middle of the ring, Kirishima was knocked out outside the ring, who was the victor of the battle. Meanwhile, Eren wakes up in the hospital bed, though his wounds have already healed by himself after the battle. As he looks around the room, he sees Midnight and Aizawa sitting in there as well. When they realize he's awake, they tell him the results of the battle. Eren won the match, and he is shocked by these words, as the last thing he remembers was Kirishima knocking him out in the middle of the ring. However, Aizawa explains that at that moment his quirk activated, but only just through his arm and not his entire body. As they show him what occurred during the instant replay, Eren sees that without biting his hand, his quirk activated only one part of his body, which then hit Kirishima with enough force to put him out of the ring before Eren could hit the ground. No excitement or cheers came out from Eren, as he was more worried about the condition that Kirishima was in since his last battle left Shinso in the hospital. Aizawa clears Eren's worries and tells him that Kirishima is doing just fine in the nursing room, as he is a tough kid himself just like Eren. With this, both adults leave the room to watch the rest of the matches, but tell Eren to rest a little more as it would take time. While Eren lies in bed, he remembers that if Bakugo and Todoroki both win their second round matches, they will have to compete in the third round against each other. Eren will have to face either Ida or Tokiyami in the next battle, with the winner of this bout heading to the final battle. Eren makes his way to the audience, where he finds the rest of his classmates sitting. During this waiting period, he watches both Todoroki's and Bakugo's matches, which they both win. This sets up both matches for the third round, Eren versus Ida and Todoroki versus Bakugo. Eren heads down in preparation for this third battle of the day. On his way down, Bakugo stops him to declare his victory in the tournament, stating that if Eren can't control his Titan form, he has no chance of beating him in the finals. Eren tells Bakugo not to worry, as he has gotten his quirk under control and won't lose. But first, he has to get through the battle with Ida. Though Ida is a very experienced and intelligent student, Eren's comeback experience was just too much, and he came out with the victory. Finally, the headline of the day other than the finals is taking place, Bakugo versus Todoroki. As soon as the battle starts, Bakugo blesses Todoroki and forces him to be on the defensive side. Though the two are quite even in combat, Bakugo has the slight edge in this battle. Uraraka mentions to Eren that Todoroki has a fire side that he won't use, but if he used it, he could very likely win this match. Being too dependent on his ice abilities, Bakugo takes the victory in this match and will face off against Eren in the final battle of the festival. Bakugo is mad that he won in such a way against Todoroki, so he declares that he would take off his anger on Eren. The time for the final battle has come, and Eren and Bakugo stand on opposite sides of the ring. This battle is set to be a rematch of the battles the two had earlier during the 2-on-2 battle trials. The announcement for the beginning of the match sounded, and Bakugo dashes toward Eren and shoots an explosion. Eren jumps out the way and bites into his hand, activating his quirk early on in this battle. Bakugo scoffs at Eren, telling him that he is an even bigger target for his attacks now. But unlike he expected, Eren's speed in this form was great. He throws a rocket speed kick and connects and blows Bakugo across the ring. Luckily, he stays in due to his quirk, but this attack shakes him. He quickly responds and shoots an explosion at Eren's leg, chipping away at the flesh to try to disable him. Once Eren notices what he is doing, he throws a swing at Bakugo, who dodges it by jumping into the air. While he's in the air, he is snatched by Eren's giant hand. He lets out a giant roar similar to a battle cry and throws Bakugo to the ground. The impact causes blood to spit out of his mouth, but he is able to get up and recover. Getting more and more rage after every hit, Bakugo's blood starts to boil. He shoots multiple blasts at Eren's leg, forcing him to take a knee. Blast after blast, Eren's Titan form begins to deteriorate, and one huge blast to his face blinded him. Turning back into a human will be risky now, as his vision will still be out, but staying in Titan form is hurting his body a ton. As long as Bakugo keeps consistently blasting at Eren, he finally needs to step back to cool down. This gives time for Eren to regenerate, but his body is still sustained heavy damage. Eren realizes that one more good blow to his head will probably end the fight, so he assumes Bakugo knows this too. He uses his arms to guard his face and continues taking blows from Bakugo. Suddenly, a huge wave of smoke hits Eren's face, and from behind he feels an explosion at the back of his neck, blowing a hole in his nape, exposing Eren's true body inside of his quirk form. Bakugo didn't use his strategy knowing this would happen, but he makes the realization that Eren's nape is a weak point in his giant form. He pulls Eren out of the giant and launches him back down to the ring. After his leg took so much damage in his colossal form, Eren struggles to stand once he's back on the ground. Bakugo slowly approaches him, throwing insults his way and telling Eren that at least he tried his best. He charged up for the final blow, but then Eren drove up from the ground and uppercuts Bakugo. This blow sends a shockwave through the stadium, and Bakugo is knocked square off his feet, slamming into the ground. Eren crawls back onto his feet, hoping that Bakugo does not get up from that hit. His feet are not supported beneath him, and his legs are shaking uncontrollably. Bakugo remains on the ground for a few seconds, then begins attempting to get up. As he finally reaches his feet, he glares at Eren with an angry expression. He walks towards Eren and winds up an explosion, which Eren tries his best to guard. As it hits him, he is blown back a few feet, but maintains his guard. Bakugo gets more angry and shoots another, then another, until Eren's arms begin to bleed. However, he still maintains his guard, refusing to lose this match. He bounces back and strikes Bakugo, and Bakugo responds with a punch of his own. Now that both of the students are out of energy and can't use their quirks, they have to resort to an all-out brawl in the middle of the ring to settle it. Eren throws one, then Bakugo throws another. After countless back and forth punches, they both wind up for what seems to be the final clash. They both throw their fists forward and connect with each other's jaws, but unexpectedly, Bakugo shoots one final explosion as he connects and blows Eren back. With no more energy to even move or get up, Eren falls in this match. Bakugo wins and is declared as the winner of this tournament. As soon as he received the victory, Bakugo hit the ground as well. This long and hard-fought battle definitely earned the respect of everyone in the crowd. After they healed in the medical room and received their medals, Eren and Bakugo walked past each other in the hallway. No insults were thrown at each other, and it seemed they both gained newfound respect for each other, even if they are still rivals. With Eren and Bakugo's newfound respect for each other and the immense growth that Eren had in this tournament, Eren's future is looking really bright. His career at UA isn't over yet, or is that true? Stay tuned for the next video to see what happens in the Attack Agency arc.